stop what you're doing for a moment, because what I'm about to reveal will either reshape the next decade of your life, or you'll dismiss it and stay stuck in the exact same place you are today. Just a few days back, I watched a man spend nearly half an hour trying to justify himself to someone who didn't even value his presence. He poured his energy into earning approval from someone unworthy of his time. And that scene stuck with me because I've seen it countless times. Men everywhere doing this exact thing. Maybe you've been that man. Maybe you've caught yourself bending over backwards, hoping to be understood, respected, or validated by people who don't actually care. Maybe deep down, you're tired of being invisible, of being underestimated, of feeling like you don't matter. The truth is, your lack of confidence isn't something you were born with. You weren't born doubting yourself. It was planted inside you. You were trained into timidity, molded into predictability, and conditioned into being easily handled. That programming didn't happen overnight. It was built into you, piece by piece, so you could be controlled. But centuries ago, one man discovered the raw principles of influence, power, and respect. Not the sugar-coated advice society feeds you, but the real mechanics of how strength and authority work. His name was Machiavelli, and he wrote a handbook that exposed the mindset required to rise above the ordinary and become unstoppable. I'm talking about becoming the type of man who walks into any room and instantly shifts the atmosphere. The type of man who doesn't need to repeat himself, because when he speaks once, people lean in and listen. The type who establishes boundaries that no one dares to cross. The man who cannot be manipulated, broken, or dismissed because he has built himself to command respect naturally. He plays by his own set of rules, not because he ignores society's rules, but because he has leveled up beyond them. And in this message, I'm going to walk you through principles that, if you internalize them, will move you from being overlooked to being impossible to ignore. From begging for acknowledgement to commanding it without asking. From drifting through life, hoping things work out, to deliberately shaping the outcomes you want. But here's the warning you need to hear before we begin. Once you learn these truths, you can't go back. Once you grasp how influence and respect actually function, the innocence of ignorance disappears forever. You will no longer be able to tolerate mediocrity, nor will you be able to accept being walked over. Once you cross into becoming unstoppable, there's no returning to the old version of yourself. So here's the first step. Inside every man, there are two competing selves. One of them is hesitant, constantly apologizing, and endlessly seeking approval. The other is grounded, self-assured, and effortlessly respected. Every decision you make feeds one version and starves the other. Each choice is either empowering the weaker self or strengthening the dominant one. Today, the goal is to stop nourishing the uncertain self and begin feeding the confident one until it takes over completely. Your uncertain self is a product of years of conditioning. It's the voice whispering, "Be polite," even when someone disrespects you. It's the compulsion to apologize when you've done nothing wrong. It's that urge to explain yourself to people who should, in fact, be explaining themselves to you. From childhood, you were molded to fit this mold. Parents wanted you to be agreeable, teachers wanted obedience, and society wanted you to be manageable. But manageable men don't build legacies. Manageable men get forgotten. Manageable men get ignored. That weaker self has probably been steering your life for years without you realizing it. It's why you've tolerated disrespect. It's why you've given endless second chances. It's why you've prioritized everyone else's comfort above your own. It's even why you're here reading this instead of already living the life you imagined. And here's the secret your uncertain self doesn't want you to realize. Every time you choose to be nice to someone who doesn't deserve it, you are actually being cruel to yourself. Every time you let someone trample over your boundaries, you silently teach them that your boundaries don't matter. Machiavelli once wrote, "He who is not master of himself will always be servant to others." That's exactly what's at play here. Your uncertain self speaks in the language of compromise. It says, "I don't want to hurt their feelings." Meanwhile, your confident self says, "I won't compromise my standards." The weak self murmurs, "Maybe I misunderstood." The strong self declares, "I understood perfectly, and I don't accept what I saw." The timid self begs, "Let me give them another chance." The confident self responds, "They already had their chance." The transformation of the inner self doesn't happen through violence, it happens through discipline. Every time someone tests your limits, the weak self wants to explain the rule. The strong self simply enforces it. Every time you're disrespected, the weak self wants to analyze why. The strong self responds with action. Every time someone wastes your time, the weak self rationalizes it away. The strong self defends his time like it's treasure. This shift isn't about becoming cold, it's about becoming strategic. It's about choosing strength over people-pleasing, influence over popularity, respect over shallow approval. Your weaker self will resist. It will remind you of people who might dislike the new you. It will drag out memories of when you tried to stand tall and stumbled. It will whisper that being powerful makes you arrogant. Let it resist. Let it complain. But keep choosing strength, because on the other side of that transformation is a man who no longer apologizes for existing, a man who doesn't waste breath explaining himself to those who don't deserve explanations, a man who doesn't beg for respect, but embodies it so deeply that it's given naturally. Your mind is either your most powerful weapon or your most dangerous enemy. For many men, it's chaos in there. Every criticism feels like a dagger. Every disappointment feels like betrayal. Every challenge stirs panic. That turbulence keeps them weak and reactive. But if you want to become unshakable, you need to build what I call a fortress mind. A fortress mind is impenetrable. It doesn't react emotionally to external nonsense. It processes events strategically. Someone criticizes you. The weak man feels wounded. The fortress mind registers it as insight into that person's character. Someone betrays you, the weak mind spirals into despair. The fortress mind calmly files it as confirmation of what was already suspected. Most men live like slaves to their emotions. Anger drives them into reckless choices. Hurt drives them into desperate decisions. Fear paralyzes them into making no decisions at all. They are dragged around by their feelings like untamed horses pulling them in random directions. But the fortress mind is different. It doesn't suppress emotions, it interprets them. Anger becomes data. It signals someone has crossed a line. Pain becomes information. It exposes who people really are. Fear becomes guidance. It points toward the exact challenge you must overcome to grow stronger. Stop personalizing everything. When someone mistreats you, it's not a reflection of your worth. It's a revelation of theirs. When someone tries to manipulate you, it doesn't show that you're weak. It shows that they're desperate. Machiavelli said, "The wise man acts in the present, shaping the future." That's the essence of the fortress mind. It doesn't waste energy reacting. It focuses energy on shaping what comes next. When you train your mind this way, setbacks lose their sting. Betrayals stop shocking you because you anticipated them as possibilities. Failures become stepping stones rather than dead ends. Success, then, becomes an outcome you're prepared to capitalize on, not just something you wish for. The fortress mind doesn't take events in isolation. It sees patterns. The person who lied to you once will do it again. The friend who gossips about others will gossip about you. The colleague who disrespected you when it seemed safe will disrespect you again if you allow it. Everything becomes a lesson. Every conversation is an opportunity to study human nature. Every interaction reveals someone's priorities. Every conflict exposes who truly stands beside you. This doesn't mean becoming cold, it means becoming prepared. It means using logic and strategy to guide your choices rather than raw emotion. Weak men crumble under pressure. Strong men use pressure to test the strength of their walls. You're building a fortress that no storm can breach. Once complete, you won't just survive difficulties, you'll dominate them. Here's a principle most people overlook. Silence is a weapon. The man who can't stop talking, who argues endlessly, who explains himself constantly, he's usually the most insecure person in the room. He talks because he's nervous. He debates because he's desperate for validation. He over-explains because he secretly doubts himself. But you're going to take a different path. You're going to master silence. Silence is the ultimate expression of confidence. When you stop feeling the need to explain yourself, people stop questioning you. When you refuse to justify your choices, people start respecting them. When you draw a boundary and enforce it without words, people take it far more seriously. Silence forces people to pay attention because it creates mystery, and mystery is powerful. Think of the people who hold real influence. Do they waste time explaining themselves to every critic? Do they justify every action? No. Silence also shields you from mistakes. Countless men have sabotaged themselves by speaking too soon, saying too much, or lashing out in anger. Entire relationships have collapsed because someone couldn't resist firing back with words they later regretted. The silent man doesn't have that problem. He speaks only when speaking serves his purpose. He saves his energy for action rather than noise. Don't confuse silence with weakness. It's the opposite. Silence is restraint, and restraint is power. It creates intrigue. It builds presence. It forces others to respect what they cannot easily decipher. While other men fill the air with empty words, you'll fill the room with undeniable presence. Here's a truth you must accept if you want to stop being disappointed. People will fail you. Friends you trusted will prioritize their own gain over your loyalty. Business partners will abandon integrity for profit. Loved ones will make choices that wound you. These moments hurt, but they're also inevitable. The question is not whether people will let you down, it's what you do afterward. Weak men crumble, break, and spiral. Strong men transform setbacks into fuel, using every betrayal as a stepping stone towards strength. People you depend on will inevitably fail you when circumstances become serious. That isn't cynicism, it's simply reality. The sooner you accept this truth, the easier it becomes to handle disappointments, because you won't be blindsided when they arrive. Most men crumble under the weight of betrayal because they clung to illusions. They assumed people were nobler than they really are. They gave away trust too quickly, instead of carefully observing behavior. They mistook charm for integrity and friendliness for loyalty. And when reality revealed itself, they couldn't comprehend it. They obsessed for months over what went wrong, replaying conversations in their heads, trying to identify the moment things shifted. They wasted their energy mourning instead of learning. But you will not be that man. You will approach life as a strategist. You will recognize that disappointment is not destruction, it is revelation. Every betrayal, every letdown, every broken promise is a piece of information. It tells you who people really are when the pressure mounts. It peels away masks, exposing character that polite words once concealed. Disappointment, when seen correctly, is not a tragedy. It is a gift, the gift of clarity. Before, you may have been uncertain about where someone stood. Afterward, there is no doubt left. You now know exactly who they are and how they behave under pressure. Machiavelli observed long ago that people are fickle, selfish, and ever-changing. The man who accepts this truth is never caught unprepared. He builds systems assuming people will act in their own interests. He creates contingencies for the day. Allies become liabilities. He never gambles his entire future on someone else's loyalty. He prepares, he protects, and he plans ahead. And here is the paradox that makes this mindset so powerful. Disappointment is actually evidence of your growth. People don't betray those they consider beneath them. They betray men they perceive as rising above them. They betray the strong because they want what the strong have. So, when disappointment arrives, wear it as confirmation that you are becoming significant. It is the cost of ascending, and it is proof that you are worth envying. When betrayal arrives, and it will, you must respond not like a victim, but like a general. Do not squander energy nursing wounded pride. Redirect it toward analysis. Ask, what did this event reveal to me? How can I use this new knowledge? What weakness in my approach did this uncover? Sometimes the wisest move is severing ties instantly. Remove the betrayer like a surgeon removes diseased tissue decisively, without drama, without prolonged negotiation. Other times, patience is the better weapon. Take note, record the treachery, and wait until the moment is right to let their unreliability serve your advantage. Every setback becomes your education. It teaches you who merits your trust and who deserves caution. It teaches you to safeguard your vulnerabilities and depend more upon your own resilience. Each betrayal you survive without breaking makes you sharper, tougher, and more strategic. The man who has endured disappointment after disappointment and still advances is far more formidable than the man who has lived a sheltered, untested life. Disappointment, then, is not the end of trust. It is your graduation from naive belief to tactical wisdom. Most men let disappointment harden them into bitterness. You will let it refine you into discernment. For when you've been abandoned, yet remain in motion, when you've been failed by all and still climb higher, that is when you know you've become unstoppable. Now we arrive at the next principle: silencing your critics through achievement. Weak men, when confronted with criticism, immediately rush to defend themselves. They argue, they explain, they debate endlessly, as though words could ever change the minds of those who were never open to persuasion. They waste their strength sparring with ghosts, granting equal standing to voices that never deserved it. But that is not your path. You will never waste your breath battling critics. You will suffocate their words with undeniable results. Your adversaries are not the problem, your response island. The moment you engage in arguments with critics, you validate them as worthy opponents. You elevate their opinions to the same level as your reality. You treat them like peers, when in truth they lack the qualifications to even judge you. Stop dignifying shallow opinions with thoughtful rebuttals. Stop giving weight to voices that have achieved nothing. Stop offering explanations to people who couldn't walk a single mile in your shoes. The most effective way to silence criticism is not with words, but with visible, undeniable excellence. Let your achievements speak for themselves. Let your consistency crush doubt. Let your progress dismantle every whisper of disbelief. Machiavelli noted that fortune cannot be overcome with complaints, but results can smother opposition. Each time you elevate yourself, their gossip transforms into envy. And envy is merely respect disguised in bitterness. Do not forget, every second wasted in debate is a second stolen from your mission. Every hour poured into defending yourself is an hour stolen from creation, building, and progress. The man constructing empires doesn't pause to argue with men who have never built anything. The man leading armies doesn't explain his strategy to those who have never led. The man who commands respect doesn't justify himself to people who cannot command even themselves. Critics will always exist. Some will doubt your ability, others will mock your methods, Still others will sneer at your ambition. This is not a crisis to solve. It is simply proof that you are in motion. Use criticism as fuel. When someone declares you cannot achieve something, let that drive you to accomplish it with greater ferocity, not to prove them wrong with words, but to demonstrate through action that they never mattered. This is why your focus must always remain on building, not defending. Excellence is your rebuttal. Achievement is your proof. And when your victories speak louder than their voices, argument becomes irrelevant. In the end, critics don't disappear. They merely choke on their own irrelevance while watching you succeed. Which brings us to the next law: controlling your reputation. Every human being you encounter forms a conclusion about you in seconds. In those brief moments, they decide how much respect you deserve, how much influence you wield, and how they will treat you. Most men leave this to randomness. You, however, will wield your reputation like a weapon. Your reputation is not just your appearance. It is the atmosphere you project when you enter a space. It is the impression you leave in silence. It is the narrative people repeat about you when you are absent. And here is the truth: mystery is magnetic. The man who reveals little draws more curiosity than the one who spills everything. Speak less and people listen more carefully. Withhold details and people respect the depth they cannot access. Do not reveal your every plan. Do not hand your competition the map to your mind. Keep people wondering, keep them guessing, and they will respect what they cannot predict. Your reputation should travel ahead of you like a shadow of strength. People should sense your standards before you articulate them. They should understand your boundaries before testing them. They should anticipate your capabilities before witnessing them firsthand. Machiavelli wrote that men judge more by appearances than by truth, so use this to your advantage. Master how you present yourself. Stand as if you own the ground beneath your feet. Move as if your path is inevitable. Respond to chaos with unshakable calm. When others panic, be the anchor. When others falter, be the steady force. Consistency is the bedrock of reputation. Be the same man when praised and when criticized, when celebrated and when challenged. Let your behavior remain steady, regardless of conditions, because stability breeds trust. And always let your competence back your image. Influence without skill collapses. But when presence meets competence, reputation becomes unshakable armor. Do not allow others to define you. Do not allow past mistakes to freeze your identity. Do not surrender to the limited views of others. You choose who you are, and you choose how you are remembered. Build your reputation carefully, protect it aggressively, and wield it strategically. It is your most powerful currency. Now we turn to discipline, making excellence your daily practice. Too many men treat excellence like a costume, something to be worn only for special occasions or moments of pressure. They rise only for big speeches, critical meetings, or rare confrontations. But true excellence is not occasional, it is habitual. It is carved into the smallest actions of every single day. Excellence is in how you rise from bed when you want to stay asleep. It is in how you handle petty irritations without losing your focus. It is in how you treat people who have nothing to offer you. It is in how you carry yourself when no one is there to watch. These invisible moments shape your character, and your character shapes your destiny. Comfort is the sworn enemy of greatness. The man who chooses comfort inevitably chooses mediocrity. He becomes predictable, manageable, forgettable. But the man who embraces discipline over ease transforms himself into something extraordinary. Machiavelli himself declared that fortune favors those who are disciplined. Each time you do the difficult task rather than the easy one, you strengthen your will. Each time you keep a promise to yourself, despite inconvenience, you reinforce your confidence. Each time you uphold your standards, when compromise would be simpler, you build unshakable trust in yourself. These daily disciplines are your private rituals, your sacred foundation. Other men will call you extreme. They will mock your intensity. They will suggest relaxation, comfort, indulgence. Yet these are the same men who will collapse under life's pressures while you stand unbroken. Let them chase ease. You will chase strength. Let them seek pleasure. You will seek permanence. Let them settle for comfort. You will embrace excellence. Excellence is not an act. It is a philosophy. It is a way of life. It is a discipline that makes you unshakable when storms arrive. And storms will come. When they do, only the disciplined will thrive. Finally, we reach the culmination, becoming unstoppable. This is where every principle we have discussed converges. When you reconstruct your inner self, when you build a fortress of the mind, when you master silence, when you convert disappointment into wisdom, when you silence critics with results, when you control your reputation, when you practice daily excellence, you become untouchable. You no longer merely survive life's battles, you dominate them. The unstoppable man is not reckless, nor is he arrogant. He is grounded, strategic, deliberate. He cannot be manipulated because he knows himself too deeply. He cannot be intimidated because he has faced disappointment and risen stronger. He cannot be ignored because his reputation precedes him. He cannot be dismissed because his results are undeniable. He does not chase respect, he commands it simply by existing as he island. This is the destiny awaiting you. If you choose discipline over comfort, strategy over reaction, silence over noise, wisdom over naivety, and resilience over bitterness. The journey is not easy. The resistance will be strong. But remember, once you taste what it means to be unstoppable, you can never return to the version of yourself that begged for validation. You will no longer seek approval, you will embody power. You will no longer hope for respect, you will command it. And you will no longer fear setbacks, you will use them as stepping stones. This is the transformation. This is the path. This is what it means to become unstoppable. This is the stage where you rise above ordinary boundaries and step into a state very few ever experience. It's the point where you're no longer fragile, no longer bendable, no longer at the mercy of circumstances. You become untouchable, unyielding, and unstoppable. To be unstoppable means your inner world can't be shaken by what happens outside of you. People may throw insults at you, but your confidence remains intact. They may betray or disappoint you, but you expected it, so it never derails you. They may challenge you, yet instead of breaking, you sharpen yourself against the test. The man who reaches this level has achieved something that most people never believe possible: absolute independence from other people's approval, rejection, or recognition. This isn't about becoming heartless or detached from humanity. It's about mastering emotional intelligence to the point where you no longer crave validation to feel whole. You still care, but you don't need care in return to survive. You still love, but you aren't incomplete without being loved back. You still connect, but your existence doesn't depend on anyone else's attention. People might label you confident, arrogant, or fiercely independent. Accept the labels without debate or defense, because you've risen beyond the need to explain yourself to those who don't understand. Average men cannot comprehend this kind of strength. They will attempt to pull you back to their level of insecurity, self-doubt, and dependency. But you don't belong there anymore. Your strength doesn't come from begging for respect. It comes from mastering yourself. Your victories don't come from applause. They come from personal discipline and standards. Your influence doesn't come from controlling others. It comes from controlling yourself. Niccolo Machiavelli once wrote, "The man who masters himself is the greatest warrior." That's the essence of being unstoppable, radical self-reliance. You no longer wait for permission to move. You no longer need cooperation to build. You no longer ask for approval before chasing your vision. This doesn't mean isolation. It means intentionality. You decide who earns a place in your life, who deserves your time, and who gains the privilege of influencing your decisions. An unstoppable man lives from abundance, not desperation. He doesn't cling to outcomes because he knows he has multiple paths to victory. He isn't crippled by rejection because his internal strength outweighs external validation. His character is so fortified that outside judgment never penetrates. And because of that, people will test him endlessly. They will search for weak points, try to push his buttons, and attempt to manipulate his emotions. Let them try. They'll find nothing to grab onto, because you've eliminated weakness through discipline and forged an unbreakable mental fortress. Every setback you've endured has been converted into fuel. Every disappointment has sharpened your perception. Every challenge has built your armor. You've mastered silence, built a fortress mind, refined your reputation, turned excellence into ritual, and hidden your vulnerabilities from the world. You've evolved into someone who doesn't just survive, he dominates. You've become unstoppable. Your enemies will burn themselves out attempting to break you. Your critics will suffocate in their own bitterness while you keep advancing. Your doubters will exhaust themselves waiting for your failure. And still you rise, because what you've built within yourself cannot be broken, cannot be diminished, cannot be stopped. Understand this clearly. The person you were before this transformation no longer exists. You've undergone a shift that will ripple through every area of your life. You now know how to replace doubt with confidence, how to build a mind so fortified it can't be breached, how to use silence as a weapon, how to turn setbacks into momentum, how to never expose weakness, how to master your reputation, how to practice excellence as a way of life, and ultimately, how to live as unstoppable. This is not just information you've received. This is transformation you've embraced. The man who began this journey was uncertain, perhaps even fragile. The man standing here now is steady, decisive, and commanding. Life will test you the moment you step forward with this new strength. Old patterns will tempt you to regress. People will challenge your new boundaries. But you must stand firm. Retreat is not an option. You are no longer the man who begs for validation. You are the man who demands respect through presence alone. You are no longer the man who gets tossed around by circumstances. You are the man who shapes circumstances to fit his vision. The man who hears these words today is no longer the same as the one who started. You've risen into a new identity, one built on mastery, clarity, and unstoppable willpower. From this point on, weakness is no longer part of your story. Hesitation is no longer part of your identity. Doubt no longer holds a place in your mind. You've built the fortress. You've lit the fire. You've claimed your strength. You cannot be held back because your transformation is complete. Now the world is waiting. It won't give you permission, opportunities, or approval. It will only give you resistance. But resistance is exactly what proves your power. Step forward without fear. Take what belongs to you without apology. Shape your destiny without hesitation. You are no longer ordinary. You are no longer breakable. You are unstoppable. Go claim everything that is yours. This is your moment. This is your rise. This is your legacy.